Today's forum will be moderated by Crystal Bryant-Kearns. As the Senior Pathfinder Operations Manager for the USO Transition Program, Crystal is responsible for building regional and national partnership networks of employment, education, financial readiness, legal, housing, and wellness resources in support of transitioning service members and military spouses. Though the program supports service members worldwide, our office is located at Fort Riley, Kansas, the home of the 1st Infantry Division.
All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to our event today. We're so glad that you're out there and you joined us. Real quick, today we are talking about the pandemic, and we're talking about how we're going to plan to rearm and refuel in today's economy. So every business owner has faced the impact of this pandemic currently, and so their responses have been vastly different. We've had some people who have jumped in, taken control, while others have shrink back in panic. And so we want to talk to you today about double downing on this and taking control. So today we are joined by Keith Ferrazzi. He is the #1 New York Times best-selling author of Who's Got Your Back and Never Eat Alone. He has a new book coming out, Leading Without Authority, as well as a frequent contributor to Harvard Business Review, the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Forbes, Inc., Fortune, and other publications. We're excited to see you, Keith. We have John Berry with us as well. John is the CEO of Berry Law Firm, and whether he's supporting our veterans or defending constitutional rights, he is leading his firm, and his firm is an Inc. 5000 for 3 years in a row. Thank you for all that you do, John. John is always mission-focused. He served in Bosnia as Operation Joint Forge and as a company commander in Iraq as part of our Operation Iraqi Freedom. John finished his military career serving over 20 years in active duty and the National Guard, and during this time he held 3 commands and retired as a battalion commander. John has been featured on such outlets as the Washington Post, Thrive Global, and ESPN. Recently, John's firm, Berry Law, won the Department of Labor's Hire Vets Platinum Medallion Award for being one of the top veteran employers in the nation. So thanks again, John. We appreciate all that you do. Next, we have Nate. Absolutely. Nate Moreno is city leader for Bunker Labs Pittsburgh Chapter, a nonprofit organization that fosters growth for veteran entrepreneurs who are starting a business. He's also the VP of ADP Military Strong organization, bridging the gap between ADP and the veteran community nationwide, implementing military experience and understanding of the business community to educate our country's veterans in HCM functions. Nate is a 7-year veteran of the PA Army National Guard's 876th Brigade Engineer Battalion, 1 tour of duty to Kosovo in support of NATO's Operation Joint Guardian in 16 and 17, and he has worked in multiple facets of the private security industry, including contracting for the CJIS division of the FBI as a mid-level programs analyst. All right, so take us back to 4 months ago. What were all of your initial thoughts at this time when the pandemic hit, and what adjustments have each of you made?
So our firm coaches the transformation of teams through disruption or in order to find significant growth opportunities. We are a small business, we're about 20 people, but we're coaching Delta Airlines as we moved into this pandemic. We were coaching General Motors as we moved into this pandemic, and Verizon. So clearly the most important thing for us was to be aware of what our clients needed during this period of time. Now, the first reaction for me was looking for opportunities in the rough. At any time of inflection or disruption, there will be fortunes lost and fortunes made. And the question is, can you extract from a crisis the most value creation possible? And obviously, as both gentlemen had already suggested, the minimization of risk is obviously an important critical first step. But we believe that it's only through the principle. We created a word for what we believe a high-performing team is, which is co-elevating. A high-performing team is a group of individuals committed to a mission, but also committed to each other. So at the time of the pandemic, the teams that we were coaching needed to double down and both understand that they needed to shore up any risk challenges that they had. You know, of course, you had airlines were reducing their revenue by 90% overnight, right? I mean, that obviously needs to understand what the risk minimizations issues associated with that. Plants were closing down, et cetera. But as soon as that occurs, at the same time, we have to have a sufficient effort focused on what are the disruptive growth opportunities. And that can't happen unless a team is truly a co-elevating team. You know, individuals within a team do not achieve greatness. Only a team working interdependently, collaboratively, holding each other accountable. So we had to shore up the team. To that end, we launched a website. I had been doing, I've foreseen the need to be working remotely for some time now. I started a $2 million research project in 2015, funded by a number of companies and Harvard Business School on virtual teams and virtual organizations. We published all of that work within a week at a website called virtualteamswin.com. We needed to be relevant to our clients and all of our prospects immediately. So we needed to teach people how to become their best co-elevating teams on a remote basis. Then we started the work of agile sprints. I mean, every organization in the world went agile in a very short period of time. We were all waking up every day asking the question, what does the market require from us? What are the situations? What do we need to do today and tomorrow? So I actually consider it an incredible richness of an experience for companies who have worked in agile sprints to continue to adopt that philosophy as you begin to grow out of this pandemic experience as well, which I can speak more to. But a lot of the work was documented at virtualteamswin.com. And I can talk a little bit more about some of the research we've been doing.
Awesome. How about you, Nathan? How have you guys adapted?
Sure. So like John said, I mean, when all of this started emerging, that it was going to be a serious problem in our country, I think everybody's mind, especially if you're a veteran, is first things first, make sure you're safe, make sure that you're able to do your job, and kind of reevaluate once you get the order to start working from home. It all kind of happened in the same tidal wave. It was a little concerning for me at the beginning because the division of ADP that I worked in is small business services, and automatically knowing coming out of the gate that small businesses are going to take of the repercussions of this pandemic. So I think after we realize that we're going to be working from home, you reevaluate the way you do your job and just accept that this is all going to be done on a virtual platform. So then from there, you're able to go to the drawing board and start virtually connecting with, the people that are working with you on these projects to figure out the best way to deliver support to the community you're serving. So I agree with John. I think the first thing that everybody looked at, especially if you're a veteran, is just to make sure that you're safe and that your family's safe. The tidal wave that hit the entire country affected us all, and we all kind of stood still and examined what was going on for a second. And once we realized that we were safe and that we were going to be working from home, you really take a look and just accept that the virtual experience and the way that you do your job is going to be the new normal. It's the new horizon. So I think we're all in the same boat where, we're good with technology to a fault, but now it encompasses the entire way we do our jobs. So from there, you get with your teams and you start going and game planning on how to deliver the best support to your community that you serve. And that is the pretty much the three things that we looked at was from a virtual backdrop now, how are we going to change the way we do our jobs? And so far, I mean, we put our heads down and just started trucking right through it. And I think, that persistence on getting better at this and building the community is really great. And I think we're right where we want to be, but we're constantly learning.
So that leads the discussion to Rearm and Refuel. So John, let's talk about that a little bit. How did you come up with this concept and what does it mean to you?
Sure. So the concept came around when I was a young infantry lieutenant in the Army, and I learned really quick that if you run out of food, if you run out of ammunition, if you run out of fuel, you can't keep fighting. My second job was a support platoon leader, where I was rearming and refueling an 800-person battalion, and if I failed, the fight stopped. In business, growth sucks cash, and we're only going on the defensive long enough to go back on the offensive. And offensive activities require a lot more sustainment. And so it's about sustaining excellence, sustaining operations, and sustaining growth. And if you aren't focused on that rearming and refueling, you're going to burn out. You're going to miss out on opportunities because you just don't have the capacity, the logistical capacity to keep going. So that's where the concept came from.
Okay, wonderful. And it's much needed now. As you guys have been saying, we adapted, we were very nimble in the way that we adjusted, but there were many companies that didn't. So Keith, if we could talk a little bit about Go Forward with Work. This is your new project that you're working on. Could you expand on that a little?
Well, I feel that the initiative of this call is an extraordinary best practice. Congratulations for what you're putting together. I think all of us should be stepping back and asking the question, what is it that we can learn, gain, and how do we grow through the disruption of the last 4 months? And I also believe that your organizations, whoever's listening right now, your organizations have less than a 2-month period to really utilize and leverage the crisis peak that we were in and begin to recontract. I call it recontracting with your teams, how you're going to thrive in this environment. What is the unexpected growth opportunity? To that end, we posted a formula for doing that, and we give it away at virtual, we can maybe put it in the chat room, virtualteamswin.com. And I want you to think about how your team is showing up. Are they showing up fractured? Are they showing up fatigued? Are they showing up frustrated? Are they thriving in this remote environment? We have seen with intention that teams should be thriving in this remote environment, but that requires a new contract among the team. The team needs to be committed to lifting each other's energy up. The team needs to be committed to collaborating to solve problems, not allowing people to dig into their trenches and holes as individuals. This is a time for co-creation. This is a time for the best of your team to be squeezed out to find opportunity. And if you're not capable of marshaling your team in a new social contract of co-elevation, then you will suffer mediocrity or worse, truly. Because in a remote environment, in an increasingly remote environment, you find that there is fracture and fatigue, and the organization will decrease productivity, decrease alignment, decrease its collaborative capabilities unless you become very intentional. So the recontracting methodology that we put together for you and that's available at virtualteamswin.com is intended for you to really get a leg up. Now, in addition to that, we are doing a set of research. So we've birthed another project. We invested about $500,000 into it, and we are collecting all of the best practices in teams and leadership, sales and marketing, learning and development and growth, eradicating systemic racism. We're collecting all of this research in one location. It's called goforwardtowork.com, and we're sharing this information so that individuals who have ideated and innovated here, but in another organization they've ideated and innovated here, we can swap those best practices. And we will be putting together our next book with Harvard on the topic. But in the meantime, I invite all of you to come and share in both sets of these research, to give you the legs up that you need to thrive in this very tumultuous, challenging environment. On the other hand, it's an environment that you actually can recreate yourself. You can be a better team than you ever were in this new environment. You can use it as pressure to sharpen the blade, or you can suffer with the being blown around by the winds of change that are happening.
Very true, very true. Thank you, Keith. I know that there are many people who thrive in this type of environment. Speaking of which, Nathan, you've done a great job. You've been doing amazing work with both ADP as well as Bunker Labs. So let's start with Bunker Labs. How have you been helping veterans in this new environment, and how do you plan to help them rearm and refuel during this time?
Sure. So I think that we are afforded a very rare opportunity despite this being a global crisis, and that is just the geographical lines that kind of prohibit us from communicating with each other or seeing each other physically or have been erased. So Bunker Labs affords a community of veteran entrepreneurs to interact with each other and to give tips and tricks, and there's programs that are designed inside of Bunker Labs to facilitate that growth that you're looking for. I mean, I think that right now, more importantly, the aspect of community amongst us veterans is the most important structure that we could be offered right now. When you're a veteran and you want to go into business, or maybe your business is brand new and then a catastrophe happens like the one that has happened, you're kind of back to square one saying, how am I supposed to survive this? I'm just a 1 or 2 man shop who just started my business. Well, that is the community of Bunker Labs that you can go to. I mean, it's all free. It's a nonprofit, and interact with tons of people exactly like you. And there are chapters from New York City to LA and everywhere in between. They're popping up all over the country. Mine is the newest chapter here in Pittsburgh, and we're going to be launching on August 27th. And now everything is going to be done virtual. So if you're a veteran-owned business that is in northern central Pennsylvania that wants to participate in the events and the programs that Bunker Labs offers, you don't have to drive from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh to participate in something like this. It's all being done virtual, and you're getting the same benefits as you would from meeting face-to-face. So now, and that's not just for my state. I mean, that's for every state that Bunker Labs is, operating in. And I would definitely recommend, if you're a veteran-owned entrepreneur or business owner and you're watching this and you haven't heard about Bunker Labs, investigate what chapter is active in your state and become a part of that community, because you never know who you're going to meet that could be the spark that ignites your business and takes it to that next level that you want it to go. I mean, it's vast. We come from all different walks of life and different branches of the service, but we share that common denominator that we're veterans, and we will go out of our way to make sure that we're lifting each other up and that we're the most successful that you could possibly be.
Wonderful, wonderful. I would like to get very specific with each of you, and I'm curious to hear if there was one piece of advice that you could tell us all, or share with us that you think businesses should be doing differently in order to thrive. If you could specify just one business practice or recommendation, what would that be? And John, would you like to kick us off on this?
I think one of the most important things that veterans or businesses can do to thrive is to work together as a team to figure out whose unique abilities can be placed where. Working is nothing new to us. One of my top attorneys spent a year in Sydney, Australia. She worked remote the entire time, and she was phenomenal. I've had offices that have failed in other cities because of the lack of leadership management. I've had remote workers completely fail. If you're highly accountable, whether you're in office or you're at home. And the key is some people perform better in different environments. And so we have to look at those two facts. highly accountable person? If they are, how can we allow them to perform optimally? And I think, like Keith said, this is a great environment for teams. We look at this as a great opportunity for our team to excel and to grow. Now, a lot of bad things have happened. There have been deaths. People have been seriously ill. Businesses shuttered. But to look at it in terms of fairness, right? To say, well, that's not fair. This state wasn't hit as a state or this. And fair is a word used by people who are spectators in the stadium stands. People who are in the middle of the fight, trying to keep their company alive, trying to win, trying to move ahead. They don't care about what's fair. You talk to the best football coaches, and what do they tell you? They say, look, we never lost a game because of one bad call. We lost a game because we failed to dominate, and that one bad call was just one of the things that caused us to lose. But it was our failure to get out there, dominate, and win. Right? It wasn't the ref that took the win from us. It was us. And I think, we have to take that responsibility. If there's one business owners need to take away from this, which veterans know, it's extreme ownership. It is accountability for everything. It's about having a great team and making team better. We have to come out of this understanding that. And the thing I love about working with veterans, I got to tell you, we've got over 80 employees, over 30% are veterans. The reason why we hire veterans is because they are resilient, because they don't worry about what's fair. They worry about accomplishing the mission. They worry about their team members. They worry about their brothers and sisters, and they worry about always doing the right thing. And when you have that kind of integrity and that kind of teamwork, you're gonna succeed. The great thing about COVID is it's exposed weaknesses in some companies, and unfortunately, some have been unable to recover. But for those who were prepared, right, and those who want to invest in their teams, this has been a great opportunity. We certainly have grown much closer as a team. At first, it was scary. We didn't know what was going to happen, but nobody ran away and hid. We all gathered together and said, we're going to make it through this. We're going to help each other, and we're going to come out on the other side better. That businesses need to do.
Awesome. That echoes the warrior ethos, right? So that's great. All right, Nathan. So tell us what you would recommend if you had one specific piece of advice.
Oh, I honestly have to agree with John here. If you're a veteran in any facet of business, it is up to you to take that due diligence to put yourself out there and start leaning on other veterans if you are struggling with anything. We all swore the same oath. We are bound to each other through that oath. I am of a firm belief that it is up to my fellow brothers and sisters in arms to hear me out if I'm having, a struggle, and vice versa. I mean, we are here for each other. It's no different than when we were actually in the military. That is the beautiful part of the veteran community, is even though that you're not actually in the military anymore, you are still amongst each other out here in the civilian world. And your strongest resource is going to be looking at programs like Bunker Labs and like the vast majority of the programs that are available to veterans in the United States to cater to you. You're not alone. You are not alone out, even in the midst of a global pandemic. Don't think that you're alone and that your business will not succeed because nobody's helping you. We're here showing you the door. It is up to you to walk through that door and see what awaits you on the other side. And that is multiple structural support systems that are here to hold you up and make you successful. So that would be my one recommendation is you have to put yourself out there and let your brother and sister in arms help you out. Seek that help and it's there for you.
That's a great piece of advice. All right, Keith, you talked a lot about team building as well. So share with us what your one bit of advice would be if you could give one solution.
I'd mentioned it earlier. And first of all, both of these gentlemen, thank you for your service. I've learned so much from the military. I've been studying high-performing teams for many years. And the work of Jim Collins that he did when he was at West Point, Stan McChrystal has grown to be a great friend of mine, and the work that he's doing around teams. And I agree with you. Those listening in, if you happen to be vets, you know what it's like to have a group of people around you that have your back and won't let you fail. Now, the question is, have you been the kind of leader that have turned your team into that? And that recontracting is available to you. And I think that that's what you need to focus on in times of crisis like this, fortifying the team on the team. There's a free resource guide of how do you have the discussion with your team to develop the kind of critical behaviors that you need with your team at times like this. Collaboration, support of each other's energy and relationships, focus on candor and transparency, butt-kicking accountability to get the job done. You need your team to step up with you and not for you. And so that's an important element of the work that needs to be done here. The other thing I'll volunteer to Nathan is if your organization is an organization that focuses on helping vets, we have a lot of curriculum around how vets can find opportunity in the relationships around them, how vets can develop a real understanding of what does it mean to be a leader in society, just the same, whether or not you have titled authority. It's so important. My new book, Leading Without Authority, helps you enlist the support around you that doesn't have to report to you, right? So I'm happy to volunteer a lot of those resources, Nathan, to your efforts back in Pittsburgh, which is my old hometown, being a boy from Latrobe.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
And Keith, I couldn't agree with you more. That lateral leadership. I think, even in the military, at the field grade officer level, those that make it to general officer are those that have that lateral leadership, that ability to lead outside of a chain of command, to have spheres of influence wholly outside of their peers or of anyone above or below them. And I think that's, that's phenomenal. And I agree. That's been ignored for some time. It hasn't been addressed adequately.
Very true. Very true. I agree. Accountability to those below and above. All right, Nathan, let's talk a little bit about ADP. I know that you spoke about Bunker Labs, but what is ADP doing to help companies succeed right now?
Absolutely. ADP has a ton of veteran advocacy inside of our organization. It's set up very similarly to Bunker Labs in the sense that we have multiple chapters throughout the United States, wherever ADP has a presence, and inside of those divisions regionally, we have business resource groups made up of the veterans that work for ADP, who are constantly think tanking on ways to make lives better, not only for veteran-owned businesses, but to attract veteran talent into ADP. And this is something that I looked at. I'm brand new to the company, less than a year. When I got out of the military, I had pigeonholed myself in the thought process that the only thing that was going to be available to me outside of the Army was going to be the security industry, which led me to be a programs analyst for the FBI. I decided to take a gamble and look at ADP, which I knew nothing about human capital management prior to, but I saw the prospect of success there. So I went through the motions in the process to get into the doors and saw what it was all about and saw how strong the veterans presence was with my BRG in Pittsburgh. And that's the same way it is throughout the country. The BRGs work on anything from planning events for veterans inside of the company and doing charitable causes, 5Ks, so on and so forth, for veteran organizations outside of ADP. So we do a lot of great work, and I would urge any veteran that wants to learn about business and learn about that internal structure of how a business, big or small, functions, take a look at ADP to further their career, because you learn so much and your brothers and sisters are inside these walls as well.
That's great. So we do have a few questions that have come in. We have one. The first question is from Lauren, who is an executive in Massachusetts. She asks, have you found it challenging to have an attitude of gratitude during the season? And how have you managed that?
I'm much more grateful now for my team, spending more time with my kids. I think you really have time to reflect on your opportunities as well as the benefits that you receive throughout your life. When things start going away, you become more grateful. That was the great thing about Army School. They take away your food, they take away your sleep, and you realize pretty soon that those are very important to your happiness, but also your ability to function. But in terms of being grateful, I think of, one of our jobs is to help veterans appeal VA disability decisions. And we go after the VA. We feel veterans are not treated fairly. But one thing I'm grateful for, the VA has stepped up during this time. They've continued operations. They've continued to pay veterans. And I'm grateful for all of our veteran clients who have reached out to us. We've had some reach out to us and say, hey, I just want to make sure you guys are doing okay. We've had veterans that we've got 6-figure back pay awards that have phenomenal lives, and they've reached out to us, which is crazy because we're worried about reaching out to our clients, making sure they're doing okay. Some of our clients are saying, hey, how are you guys doing? I want to make sure you're okay. And this gratitude, that doesn't happen in time, other than times like these, where people who really care, who maybe wouldn't reach out, would be too busy, maybe too shy, are stepping up and sharing that gratitude. And to me, that's great. And that's great in the veteran community. And I'm sure you've seen this too. A lot of my colleagues, peers, bosses, subordinate leaders have reached out to me and said, John, hey, how are things going? I think that's try to do the same, but I think it's great. I think it's made us tighter, especially as a veteran community. I was disappointed. I was supposed to present at a Bunker Labs event right when COVID hit, but I'm grateful for the connections I made and to work with a great team of veterans on the Omaha Bunker Labs chapter.
Awesome.
Nathan, would you like to share a little bit about your attitude of gratitude during this season?
Sure. I'm just overwhelmingly grateful to any of our first responders or hospital workers that might be tuning in right now. Thank you so much for everything you do. This is something that hopefully we only see once in our lifetimes, but the bravery that is being displayed amongst our American citizens out there day after day in the face of a global pandemic it takes my breath away. And it makes me so proud to be an American and to live where this bravery is, you see it every day with everything that's going on right now. And anytime that I'm, feeling bad about anything, I am so grateful to still be working. I am grateful to be included on projects that are complementing veterans' lives throughout the country. I look at things that, may be affecting me or slowing me down, and they pale in comparison to some of the hardships that our countrymen and women are feeling right now. My family is safe. I continue to work a great job. I continue to do something that I find a lot of virtue in. And for that, I don't see how I could be anything but grateful.
How about you, Keith? Have you found it challenging at all to have an attitude of gratitude?
Well, look, I think we need to be diligent, and we need to make sure that we're managing this crisis effectively. I don't think we can do it alone. I think it's so much more difficult to find the gratitude in isolation, finding the gratitude in community, and for community, and cultivating community. I actually have found that there are more people available now to just dip in to intimate conversations, whether those are clients or prospects or friends and family members. So I think it's a very rich time to develop relationship. We don't have commute times anymore. Right, we have a great deal more abundance of time than we did. And I have also want to make sure, though, that we all are very, as I mentioned, diligent on what might be occurring. Right now, we're in a reasonable stasis. The infusion of federal dollars have sufficiently propped the economy up for a period of time, and we don't know what the future is entailed. We need to stay diligent and planning for the growth that could exist even in what might even be a future of even more challenging times, economically and otherwise. So I really think it's very important to bring the team together at a time like this and do sufficient planning for your future and for your opportunities, and be grateful that this is a time that you could even pivot your business, to be something that it had never been before. So again, I'm always looking for opportunities to take it to the next level, but you won't do that if you don't bring your team together, which is why we're offering that recontracting guide that we we gave you earlier.
Keith, I want to jump in and ask you a question. Never Eat Alone, phenomenal book. I read it 5 years ago, and I wasted a decade of my life. All these relationships I had through college and the military, and I didn't take advantage of them. What's the best way for me to be taking advantage of those relationships, building those relationships now? How do I implement Never Eat Alone during COVID when I can't invite everybody over to my house to eat?
No, but
or
you
go to
can
restaurants.
You can do something even easier. You can have a Zoom dinner. And I'm having dinner tonight with the CEO of Amazon, and it's just, one-on-one dinner with, his significant other and myself. And, I wouldn't have been able to get that as easily in a pre-pandemic world. I am scheduling dip-ins with clients, with friends, as you've suggested. You could even go back. Like I said, just the other day, I had a lovely conversation with Stan McChrystal and what we're both learning, General McChrystal, what we're both learning about being leadership coaches during this, that is very difficult and strenuous time. Would Stan have had this, or Stan or I have had the same time for a half of an hour dip in like that? Probably not. And in the olden days, the assumption was I would have, for that level of conversation, I would have had to do it face to face, right? Or it might have been relegated to a phone call, but not this intimate connection here. So here's very simply, John, what I might suggest. Go back over your life and pick the 10 most prominent individuals that you connected with. And let's say you've never talked to them for 10 to 20 years. That's fine. But reach out to them now. Let them know that you've been reflecting on your life at a time like this. Let them know that they've come up as prominent characters of people that you've respected and cared for, and that you feel sorry for having lost connection and touch with. And reach back out to them and suggest nothing more than a 15-minute catch-up, right? And it was interesting. I wrote in my first book, Never Eat Alone, the principle of 15 minutes and a cup of coffee. It's how easy it is to ask for that. And I have to be honest that, prior to pandemic, given my schedule, my work schedule, my client schedule, and other things, if somebody had called me and asked for 15 minutes and a cup of coffee, which was my advice in the book, I wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't have had the time for it. I haven't had time for months. I didn't even have time for my own team, right? Because I was traveling so much and doing things I needed to do. But now I do. So I think it's a rich time, John. I think the rules apply, but also no need to turn your back on what was missed over 10 years. You can start now.
Thank you.
That's great advice. Thanks, Keith. We encourage our veterans all the time to do what we call informational interviews.
And by the way, I just found out that my younger son, I have a foster son was 12 when I got him, and he's 22 today. As of this weekend, he's enlisting in the military, and I couldn't be prouder.
That's awesome. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Keith.
Thank you. I'm very proud.
That's great. All right, we have another question. Our last question is from Leslie in Arizona. My husband is a veteran and has seen sales from his business decline in the last several months. What is the best way for me to support him during this time? And it's an open question. Anyone jump in.
It's better to have that open communication in the marriage than to keep it bottled up. And I'm recently remarried, so I can tell you that, looking back at my first marriage, and, part of it was communication, not openly, honestly talking about the tough issues. And sometimes when you're failing, it's really tough to admit that you're failing. But no, my advice is the same, and probably even stronger, that have that communication. Ask first, how can I help? And then let's talk the efforts that you're making. Is there more we could do? What can I help you do? What could you be doing something different? And I agree, it's difficult with spouses, but the problem is if you don't have that conversation, and now months down the road, this woman is regretting her spouse's inaction, but she never took any action to help him move along, then I think it's going to create real problems in the marriage. It's real easy to look at someone and say you're failing, but to reach down and say, how can I help? And then also hold that person accountable, get a plan and then hold them accountable to the plan. And I think that's actually good for a relationship.
Would anyone else like to comment? That's a great answer, John. Anyone else want to say anything in regards
No,
to
I think John hit it right on the head. I've been studying this principle of co-elevation for 20 years and how it affects high impact teams. And I feel that the same standard needs to apply in our marriages. When I wrote my second book, Who's Got Your Back, 50% of Americans said that no one has their back. And of those who said that no one has their back, 60% were married. So that kind of research to me shows that we need to do a much better job of being partners with the most important people in our life. And that's not nitpicking. That's not nagging. That's lifting each other up. It's designing a shared goal that you both commit to. That's putting a plan together that you both contribute to, right? And it's a co-creation. Yeah, sure. It's this questioner's husband's job, but in a time like now, we all need to be diving in to be of support of each other. And as John suggested, sales requires a lot. It requires creativity, which you always get more creativity with multiple voices, multiple heads in the game. It requires accountability, and sometimes we need accountability buddies. It requires networking, and we can always, I promise you, there are people that are in your network, the lady who asked the question, there are people in your network who are married to people that maybe your husband consulted. So, everything can be a team sport. And when it comes to marriages, I think a lot should be a team sport.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I think it's great that she's reaching out and asking the question. That's a great first step. One of the things that we wanted to do today was to feature a veteran business doing great work. I'm happy to present to you Tech for Troops.
I am a U.S. Army War veteran. It's been very difficult to find a job. Because of Tech for Troops, I'm going to be able to go back to school online, and it means everything to me.
Help us continue our mission by becoming an ongoing corporate or individual sponsor at techfortroops.org.
All right. Well, we are going to turn it over to John for closing comments.
I just want to thank all of you for being here. Keith and Nathan. Keith, I've been a fan for a long time. I love the book. Like I said, that it takes people out of their comfort zone, but it is so critical to success. That social capital. I was one of those things that I was ignoring. So I'm grateful for that book. I absolutely loved it. And it really helped me and helped my business quite a bit. And Nathan, very proud of what you're doing with Bunker Lab. And I know it's a huge organization, huge national organization. I know those things aren't easy, but it's great that you're stepping up to help veterans who are fighting that next battle, building their companies and building their communities. And I think it's a great thing. It's a great act of service on your part. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
And Crystal, thanks so much for moderating this and for getting the message out there. I greatly appreciate your patriotism and dedication to help our nation's heroes, our men and women who put on the uniform every day to make sure that we can enjoy our freedoms.
Thank you, John.
Amen to that.
The USO Transitions Program supports transitioning service members and military spouses as they move into their next chapter. Whether it's a military to civilian transition or a PCS, the USO transition team is always by your side. The team works with strategic partners to connect service members and military spouses to resources within a variety of focus areas: employment, education, financial readiness, veterans benefits, housing, legal, family strength, and wellness and volunteerism.